Hey everyone, we are the Book Warriors, Melissa, Diane, and we are here with Tonya Kappes. How's it going, buddy?
Hi. Let's see, I'm
Tonya,
trying to get my little nightlight in here, but I don't think it's doing so
oh,
good.
that's a camper. That's so cute.
I
Can
am
you
in my
hold it up?
camper. I'm in the camper.
You're in
How
the camper.
fun!
I'm
So,
in my camper.
okay, before we start with all that, so here's our little sign.
Uh,
You're our August teacher. So, yeah, so before we even start, let's hear. Are you there?
yeah. Are y'all there?
Yeah, it glitched out for a minute for me. I don't know if it did for her also. Maybe.
Yeah. Tell us why you're in a camper right now.
Because I own a camper. And I just hear we actually have a travel trailer that is like the ones in the book. And so I write here. I call it my shamper, my she camper.
Yeah.
So I used to have a she shed, and we sold our house during this whole COVID thing. But we had also bought property in our area on a mountainside. And so I'm like in the middle of the mountainside with a lake that looks a lot like the lake, and I have a paddle boat I hang out in a lot, and we're building the house, but we haven't started. So we moved our camper up here, and I come up here every day because we're living in an apartment, which is fine. It's just that we didn't have our house wasn't built yet, and I didn't realize that my house would sell in 3 hours.
Oh my
After
goodness.
word of mouth. I didn't even put it on the market. Like I went walking in my neighborhood, and somebody said, "Oh my gosh, Tonya, I see where you're writing in this property on your camper." And I said, "Yeah, we're going to build there in like 9 months if you know somebody that wants to live in the neighborhood." So I went for my walk. I came back and I had 15 people that already called me. I had sold it by 3 o'clock that afternoon. Eddie came home from work. I'm like, "Hey, I sold the house." He's like, "What did you ask for it?" So we sold it. We moved into an apartment, and so we stay up here a lot. So I mean, because obviously, I mean, I have electricity and water and a bed, obviously, and a toilet, which is important. And so we stay up here a lot overnight. So
is it close to
yeah,
where you're building the house?
it's actually on property
Oh, it's
that
on
we're
the
building the
property.
house.
I saw a
Yeah.
video where you were out there by your dock, and you were like reminding everybody, like, "What? This is like the dock in May West."
It is. Oh my gosh. So there was a big dome house on the property that we had torn down. So, yeah. So now we're building, but we have a beautiful look of the Ohio River on
Oh,
the Kentucky
nice.
side, like upriver. So it's the Ohio Valley. But you can't, my girlfriends, they are always on their boats, and they always send me pictures of our hillside. Like, where are you? I know you're up there.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Are you kind of nestled in the trees then where they can't see?
Oh yeah, you can't
Oh,
see that we're up
nice.
here at all. Yeah, so we also have a stock pond, which is fun to fish at. So I'll write a little. I'll go out there and fish a little. I'll pedal boat a little, and just come in and write and just eat. And oh, I'm having coffee, of course, in my camper mug.
That's cute. Oh, that's so cute.
Sounds idyllic.
Thanks. It is a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay, so before we keep going, I want to say something to people who are watching. There's a link there. If you click it, your names, you're giving permission for your names to appear right now. Everybody, it just says Facebook user unless you kind of like grant it permission. But we see all your comments, so you can keep the comments coming. We just don't know who they're from unless
I don't see comments. I don't know how to do that.
Oh,
Is there a way?
I see comments. So if there's questions, I can ask them. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, everybody's saying hello from Wisconsin. Hello. So
They're there over the side.
so I wanted before we start too. I don't know if you remember this, Tonya. Tonya and I have been friends a long time. How long?
It was before I was ever published, so at least 10 years.
Yeah. It was when Carpe Diem came out, yeah?
Yes.
Around then. So, yeah, you used to do jewelry, and so I have the necklace with the goat when my dressmaking series came out, and my birthstone, well, a green gem, and then my initials. So.
Oh, I still have my jewelry, too. I just don't have any on.
Yeah.
I think most of my jewelry is in a storage unit.
Oh, yeah. So when is your house going to be done?
So we haven't even secured our builder yet, finally, but we do have the house plan, so that's done. And then we had to have a geoengineer come up here to see where the bedrock is, so that's done. And then the health department had to come up here to make sure that the septic is still good to use, so that's done. So we needed all that in order to get a building permit. Hopefully in the spring, fingers crossed.
So you'll be in your camper for quite a long time.
Who knows when it'll be? I'm just gonna live in my camper.
Yeah, for a while. Get comfy. Well, we have a list of questions to talk to you about, and then I know you just had your new book come out in the series too, so we thought we could chat about that at the end. But our book club book for August was Beaches Bungalow. What is it called?
I've got it. Beaches, bungalows, and burglaries.
And burglaries. Okay, I knew I was missing one of these. I love the way that you use the alliteration. For all
Thank
of your
you. Thank you.
So that leads me to a question which is not even on our list, but do you come up with the titles first, and does that kind of inform your plot, or do you come up with the plot and then try and come up with the alliterative titles to match?
So, Misa, you know me. I'm a fly by the seat of the pants kind of girl. You know that if it can't be Googled, it ain't researched. So honestly, I'll tell you what, I have a lot of readers that come up with some really clever titles. And so I have one reader, she's always messaging me, oh, here's a new title. So literally like the last 4 books that are up for pre-order right now all came from her. So really, I'm not good at that. I like make a list of them, but my cover artist is the one who came up with the first 4. And I'm like, oh, that's great. And so I'm like, it's so cute. And I had no idea how I was going to incorporate the titles into the plot. But the first one, as you know, they have a beach theme party. And so I always try to incorporate like what the theme of their party is going to be for each one. And then sometimes I'll do, but it's always in the plot somewhere. So usually the titles are they're the first thing that come up, and then the plot. So right.
That's awesome. That's clever, but I think that for me, I don't know, Diane, do you think that would pose challenges for me to make sure that I could come up with a plot that involved kayaks like your new one, you know?
Yeah.
Then I read the back and it makes so much sense, and it's an awesome premise. So
well, thank you.
Sometimes it's fun to have that challenge too, you know. I mean, I've written stuff in synopsis before, and I thought, well, how am I going to do that? You know, how am I going to make that happen? Like, how am I going to make this rhinoceros disappear from a zoo? And you know, you figure it out. That's part
and
of
your creative side takes over, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's part of the kind of part of the fun. But yeah, it can be a little daunting sometimes to go, oh, what have I done to myself? You know.
Yeah, and then if I get stuck, I just sleep on it for a few days, and my subconscious solves the problem or comes up with what's next.
Yeah, and if I get stuck, I just kill somebody.
Yeah.
And then it opens a whole new reason you need a kayak to push them out.
Right. Now they can have sex in Cozy Mysteries. Okay, so let's talk about beaches, bungalows, and burglaries. So the name Mae West. Did you just come up with that, and are you a Mae West fan, or how did that name evolve for the name of your heroine? Because it's an awesome name, and it's a great connection to our classic actress.
It added some humor too with everybody's reaction to it.
Well, that was the thing. So I love classic movies, and I'd rather watch those movies than any. I just don't go to the theater, but I'd like to watch the classics. I know when my husband and I were dating, he bought me a stack of just black and white classic movies for the first birthday because he knew I love them so much. And so when I came up with the title, I knew that I didn't want her to be like Mae West, the actress, but I loved the name and I loved the tie-in for the husband, Paul West. And it just kind of fit that lifestyle of the actress Mae West because she was very eccentric. And so Mae was living that kind of lifestyle after she had gotten out of Kentucky, which is 2 worlds apart. So I knew I wanted to have her that way. Plus, it's good for marketing.
Yeah. And you are.
I'm always thinking of the marketing.
You know, our Aunt May, she's not with us anymore, but spelled the same way. And my mom found out after the fact that we had the same birthday. And so in hindsight, she wished that she would have named me May.
Oh.
Well, it's funny how some of these older names are coming back for women, May and Ray, and you're seeing a lot of Lucy's, little girls named Lucy and stuff
Well,
too.
here,
It's
yeah,
interesting. So,
well, here in Kentucky, we still have old time names. We've never gone with a lot of the popular names. So I'm still around people who have, Maylin is a person I know, and they go by two names. And so, it's interesting because everybody says to me all the time, "Oh, that's kind of coming up." And plus, I have a pen name with Crooked Lane called Mamie Bell, and Mamie is my grandmother's name. Well, she's deceased now, but it's still a very popular name around my area. And so, I see those that people always say, "Oh, you're making the old time names come back." I'm like, no, we are all still named that. It's not old time for us around
yeah,
here in
my
Kentucky.
editor goes by Nettie, and she's from either Louisville or Lexington. I want to
Oh
say
yeah,
Lexington, and her real
yeah,
name's Amanda, but she goes by Nettie.
yeah.
Yeah, so,
That's a popular name
yeah.
in the
So
South. Yeah.
the question that I had, we've kind of touched on, but maybe you can elaborate on it. We loved the whole RV park setting. It was original. It was really fun, and the sense of community there. And so I see that you have an RV. You talked a little bit about that, but how did you first get into the RV? Getting an RV. Yeah, how did that come to be? Is this the first one you've owned? Did you grow up going RVing with your family, or?
Yeah, so actually, the Daniel Boone National Forest is in Kentucky. So my parents had a Winnebago when I was growing up. So we always went camping, and that was kind of like we always went to Florida during spring break, and then during the summer, we always went camping. So we would go camping in the Winnebago, pile everybody in, no seatbelts at the time. So we would pile in, and we would take some friends of ours with us, and we would go camping down in the Daniel Boone National Park is really big. So we would usually go to Appalachia. And so we would go down through there. But the RV or the Daniel Boone National Park that I write about is more like towards the gorge or natural bridge, where as a college girl, I would go with my friends on the weekend. We'd go camping and go hiking and all that kind of fun stuff. And so then, of course, my husband and I raised four boys. Three are his biological children, and one is mine. And so they were little when we got married. So we used to do some tent camping and, kayaking and things like that. So when Eddie and I, in our later years now, since all my children are all out of the house, we decided that we wanted to travel a lot more within the United States. He's not really big about travel or flying or leaving the United States. He's always been like that. Not it was even before COVID. And so his dream was always to travel national parks and things like that. I'm like, oh, I'm totally up for it. I'm the one that can work from home. You're the one that has to go to work. And so that's why we bought the travel trailer. And now one of our sons is an architect in Atlanta. And so we are excited because he lives down there by Lake Lanier. So they have a ton of camping sites. And so we're headed down there in a couple of weeks for a few nights to spend down there. So
I have a friend, Amy, so Diane knows her, who moved recently from Atlanta, and Lake Lanier is her favorite place. She goes back to Atlanta pretty frequently, and she's got a daughter over there still, and she's every time she goes, she must go to that lake.
Is the daughter single?
The daughter is single.
Is she? How old is she? I might be setting up Boston here with her.
I think it's like 25-ish, maybe.
He's an architect.
We'll talk later.
We'll talk. So, yeah. So, but yeah. So interestingly enough, he went down. He had 8 job offers before COVID, because he was graduating from the University of Kentucky, and all 8 went away. So, he and our youngest Jack had moved home. And I'm like, I'm going to stay in the camper. But then we ended up selling the house, and then everything kind of worked out. Austin got this job and we moved him down. So it's pretty new. So this will be the first time we've taken the camper to Lake Lanier. So we've been there when he moved, but we haven't stayed there. So we're pretty excited. So that's how we have a camper. So, and I have a big fat Ford F-150 to pull it.
That sounds like so much fun.
Is that what you drive, or is that what Eddie drives?
Oh no! Well, I also no. He has a truck for work, but that is I drive it all the time. Plus, I have a tiny little Fiat too, so I go from small to
Didn't
big.
you have a minivan when I was there? That was
I did, and actually, we just literally we had that car forever, and it sat up here on the property. And I'm like, we've got to do something with it. So I end up giving it to my church. So they'll and so they have a program. This is our second car that we've given to the church, and they have a volunteer program called Wheels, where people that are mechanics within the church that volunteer their time. And so with anything that needs to be that you can get the car in perfect condition, or they can come pick it up on a flatbed. But my car was still drivable; it was in all good condition. So a single mom is going to get my van. So. Yeah, so we were pretty excited to do it. And, it wasn't much, I knew it wouldn't be anything if we wanted to try to trade something in. So we just gave it away.
Yeah.
So
nice.
It was so old. It was like a 2005.
I have very fond memories of you picking me up at that airport that was forever a million miles away.
Oh my gosh, I do too. And I don't think that you had seen lightning bugs at that point in your life, have you?
I hadn't, but yeah, because Diane, we didn't have them in Texas. I don't remember seeing them in Texas, but we have them here. So
yeah, it depends on where you were in Texas. Like Austin had them, but North Texas not so much. I mean, we'd get them occasionally in Mansfield, but you kind of needed more humidity. It seemed like there weren't a ton. And where you were heading further up to Oklahoma, there weren't many.
And I remember she was like, "Oh, like those are lightning bugs." But Misa's been. I mean, you were there for like one of the kids' graduations, and we had so much fun traveling around.
I know, that was so much fun. We need to do it again.
Absolutely, anytime.
To our neck of the woods. And then
I'll just hook my F-150 up with my travel trailer, park it in your driveway.
There we go. We have a
boondocking. They call that boondocking. I'll just plug into your electric.
Oh.
There's a whole.
Learned a new term.
Yeah.
Beaches, bungalows, and boondocking.
That's right. Boondocking's a popular thing. Like if you see, like there's like this website called Harvest Host, and you can join it for like $20 a year, and it's like wineries, farms all across the United States that if you're traveling to, like, say I'm traveling to Yellowstone, it takes like 2 weeks. Well, not really 2 weeks, but like 24 hours. But you want to stop. And there's not a camp, because a lot of campgrounds, like camping is like exploded. And so there's a lot of places that have like a year wait time to even stay. Yeah, it's crazy. So these places have opened up spots on their land where you can go and boondock. And so sometimes the host will bring like wine or cheese, or you can, it's a really fun, neat little place. So it's becoming more popular. But it doesn't have like really kind of like water hookup or electric. So you have to run your generator or your, your water tanks or things like that. So but it's really a fun thing. So
too bad you already used the bees for your title.
I know.
Good.
I know. I did use C twice because I wanted a Christmas book, but that's okay. I'm not planning on using any other letters.
So. Too bad you already used the bees. Okay, so my next question is about your character Dottie, who's incredibly eccentric and fun and sassy and very direct. And so we were wondering, is that based on someone that you know?
So I have an Aunt Dorothy, Dottie, and she is she's past smoking. But anyway, she was an avid smoker, and she had like the pouch with the snap on top, and she would talk. And so before Facebook or any of that, we would talk on the phone all the time and talk about like days of our lives. I could hear her just puffing along. And so she was really eccentric, and she lived in the country. I mean, outhouse country, I'm talking. And it was my mom's sister. We had the best time. So she was really after her. But she passed away probably like 8, well, no, more than that. I mean, probably like 14 years ago. And so she was kind of the person for that. She was very funny and snarky, and she's real country, and the way Dottie talks is the way she would talk. And so, yeah, so she really is kind of like that character.
She reminded me of my Aunt Betty from West Texas, was a chain smoker and kind of no nonsense. She wasn't going to sugarcoat anything, but you could always count on her. You knew she had your back. So it was very similar to that.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. So I was looking at some of the comments. Cecilia Conilly is saying that she lives near Lake Lanier. And people comment from Lillian Gill about kayaks killing people. Oh boy. We have a Tracy Pudinsky from Left Normal, Kentucky. Oh, she said left Normal, Kentucky to visit you. Some Jane Dietz just finished kayaks moments before this started. So yeah, lots of engagement going on here.
Oh,
so
good.
my next
names.
question was, yeah, good. I thought you did such a good job with the relationship between May and her husband and the struggle she had with, wanting to believe him, but yet having her doubts. And, I feel like that felt very, very real. And I can imagine how someone in her situation would feel conflicted, especially, you don't know for sure if somebody's done something or not to that. So I'm just curious if you researched white collar crimes when you were writing this or before you wrote this, and read anything about how family members are affected by it.
Did you not hear what I said at the beginning? If I can't Google it, I ain't researching it. So no, just really kind of what you heard about that Bernie Madoff. It was just kind of a skim of that. Because May has a lot of history. She has a lot that's unpacked in the book. Like, obviously, in the first book that her family had died in a fire. So that's kind of revisited down the line in Sunsets and Sabbaticals. Also, her foster mother and her foster brother do come back in the Christmas book, and they end up moving to normal. So, I mean, her character arc just really continues through the whole story. So you will get like all the background, like the readers will get all the background about her history and why she decided to leave, obviously, Kentucky, because she's from Kentucky, and then why she ended up getting married to him and their life together. And because he was not ever that person to her, so she was really shocked. And I know that Bernie Madoff's wife, I don't even know her name. I can just picture her right now. Like, I know that she knew what was going on, but May, literally, he kept her out of the house of everything that was going on. And so I didn't necessarily want her to be dumb. Obviously, we don't like our sleuths to be dumb, but I think sometimes love, and especially the situation she had come from as a child, really was a veil for her. And she probably knew, that something wasn't right. And that father figure, because he's older than her. So when I was writing her, I didn't want her to be so naive, but just enough naive that she had to grow, and that her goodness in her, when you meet her foster mother, you're going to see she had manners school. She had all sorts of stuff. So a lot of the things that she resented her foster mother for does heal their relationship. But those are the things that became who she was in book 1. She remembered those later on. And that her character grows to really appreciate and to have learned about people and the goodness of people, and how she needed to make good with the group or the community. So all of her background plays into that also plays out through the various novels or books. So yeah.
So that leads to my next question which is, I mean, your books are very comedic. They're very light and fun, but you do also touch on these darker more difficult elements. So how do you, is that difficult? And then how do you manage to do that, you know, and still keep it so light?
So I know that that obviously it's a mystery. So there are dark. I mean, not all. I mean, not all, killing people is not funny. So I try to put that
Right.
in there, and so it can be very serious. Obviously, it's serious, but I feel like that when I write her that she's more serious than all the secondary characters. So she's never really funny or that way. Really, it's all the secondary characters that give the fun to the book. So I've always kept her more, on the path, the serious path. And so when I'm writing her, I know that the snark has to come from them. And I know that in the end, when I wrap up the book, there has to be something that she learns. So I think the last words of this book was something like "I'm home," or I mean, I guess I could look it up, but I think it's something similar to that because at the end of each book, I try to give her something. Yeah, home. I was home. So I try to give her something that's nostalgia to the book or something that she's learned about herself or about one of the characters um, in the series at that time. So, I try to make each book end on a feel good and not just, oh, this is what happened, this ties it up, or those kind of things that you see in, some mysteries, because I want that sense of community. The community is really a secondary character to me, and I write the campground as a secondary character. I write the national forest as a secondary character. And although I'm kind of not necessarily making fun of the Appalachia, but literally that's how it is. So I know when I put that in, it'll give that sense of funny and humor to the serious side of May finding out who she really is. And her, she's what, 29, 30 in the book. And, as her life unfolds, as she has to start peeling off the layers of her life. So I deliberately make the secondary things the funny. But I mean, that's like the second part. Like I write the book and then I go in and add the funny at the end of that. So, because I don't want it to be hard. I don't want it to be, I'm known for light Southern readings. What was Mark Twain's quote where he said something like, thank God everybody needs water. Thank God for water, or whatever that quote is. I can't even think of it, because he's like the water to people. Read these big mysteries or these big novels, and I'm the water. I'm what you drink afterwards, and everybody needs water. So I don't do I don't do the heavy, and I don't want to. That's not what I'm put on this earth to do. So I'm here to have one reader escape whatever they're going through, doing funny things, and hopefully, those do that. So, yeah. Did that answer your question?
Awesome. Yeah, I think so. You have a question, Diane?
Well, mine is just going to be about Kentucky, how you chose that setting. But so now we know you live there, and I mean, the natural beauty that you describe. When I lived in Nashville several years ago, we drove through
beautiful
times and went up to Mammoth,
okay.
and we loved it. Yeah, and my son just moved from British Columbia down to North Carolina, and he drove through Kentucky, and he said that was the most beautiful part of his entire drive, and he wants to go back. So
Kentucky is beautiful.
Yeah, maybe doing
some. Well, all my novels all my books, all my cozies are set in Kentucky. And so somebody had said the worst writing advice they ever got was write what you know. Well, that was the best I ever got, because I'm writing in my camper and I'm writing about Kentucky and it hasn't steered me wrong. So, but I do love Kentucky.
What was the advice? Somebody told you not to write what you know?
Well, I've been on a lot of panels, and they're like, "Oh, what advice would you give?" And some people say, "Oh, I hear you say like write what you know," and a lot of authors are like, "Oh, I would never do that." I'm like, "That's all I do." So yeah, so I always say write what you know.
I think it depends on whether you love what you know.
That's true.
If you love what you know, it's fun to write about, and you really bring it alive, and you help the readers enjoy it too. And
Yeah.
if what you know is not good, then it's probably not going to be any fun to write.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I do. I'm very proud of my state. I love Kentucky, and I just love the beauty of it. We have all the seasons, and it's so easy to write. It's so pretty. It's just like a picture. An artist couldn't even paint it. It's so pretty. So.
Yeah, I had never been there until I came to visit you, and I was blown away by how beautiful it was.
Well, thank you. You flew into Louisville, and I had to drive 2 hours to get you.
I didn't say that, Louisville. You gotta
Louisville.
swallow that.
Isn't there an S in there somewhere?
Louisville.
It's been less expensive.
It was, yeah, definitely.
Because I should have been into what was closer. Cincinnati.
Well, it's a Cincinnati International Airport, but it's actually in Kentucky.
I remember.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, yeah, nuts.
Cincinnati Romance Writers chapter to do a talk. Yeah.
Oh, we did the Lori Foster event, right? Is that what we did?
Yeah, and I still do it.
Yeah.
And she does something really fun now. Like she picks 4 authors that are at her event, and she has a camper, and she calls them the RV interviews. So last year she interviewed me in the RV. It was so fun. Yeah. I'm still there. Come on.
I know. Now I'm a lot closer, so yeah, I have to do that. All right, so tell us about the Laundry Club. How did that come to be this group of women that end up being May's, huge support group and book lovers, but also different from one another?
So I knew that, again, community is super important. And as much as I would like to not say this happens, but we are gossipy here, and we bless your heart in the same sentence. And so we like to say, well, honey, we ain't gossiping. We're putting you on the prayer list. So what happened is that I knew that I needed a group of women that were going to know some things in normal, and Dottie had to be part of that. So although the campground does end up getting a working laundromat, I just figured, oh heck, we'll just put one in the town, because a lot of times if you're at a campground, you don't have a laundromat in the campground, so you have to go and do your laundry. So they have those. So I had gone to one laundromat in a town that actually had like beautiful sofas, and you could watch TV. So I'm like, wouldn't it be fun to have a group of people, various ages? Like I wanted young to the older ages, because I think each one brings different knowledge to the table. And I think, like with Abby Fawn, she's really good at, the internet and all that kind of stuff, where obviously Dottie doesn't give 2 hoots and a hound about it. And you got Queenie doing the jazzercise. And so I knew that needed to be somewhere in the book. So, of course, most towns in Kentucky, you have 2 jobs. Most families in Kentucky does. So I knew that they could all hold at least 2 jobs if they needed to. And it just kind of played out that way. So when I knew May had to do laundry and that it wasn't working at the campground, so that's where I got the idea of, I've seen that one laundromat that one time that was kind of, she. So I said, well, I'm going to make one of those in normal. And then it was just called the Laundry Club. So then I just called it the Laundry Club Ladies. And so, they play a major role in major secondary characters. As a matter of fact, I got a bad review in one of my books. So somebody said, well, I really wanted the Laundry Club girls to play a bigger role in this part. But they had actually gone out of the campground in that book when May went back home. So some of them didn't go because they had other jobs. So they play a major role. Plus, they play a major role in the town. So like, Queenie, although she doesn't have any other job other than the jazzercise instructor, she is the Historical Society president, which you find out in later books. And in one of the books, there really is a Civil War enactment still in the Daniel Boone National Park called Camp Wildcat. So I got the idea that she was going to be in charge of this reenactment. It's the motorhomes, maps and murder. And so I thought, oh my gosh, what about if there was an escaped convict, that because there is a prison, and that is also written in one of the other books. And what about if he escaped, but at the end of, but when he was getting sentenced, he stopped and looked at each one of the jurors, and the judge was like, what are you doing? We need to take him away. He's like, I just want to remember everyone's face. So this guy escapes, and somebody had called Queenie and couldn't make it to the reenactment. So they said, oh, I'm sending a replacement. So this escaped convict, while Hank and all the other people are looking for the escaped convict, he shows up at the reenactment before it starts. And he is in regular clothes, which, why is he in regular clothes? But anyway, so Queenie looks in and says, oh, you must be the replacement. Here's a bayonet and here's some clothes. So he puts on this uniform and the bayonet, and he's just trying to get across the field, right? So May and all the other laundry club ladies are watching the reenactment, and they're like, wow, did you just see Darnell? He felt awesome. He should be an actor. Well, really, the prisoner was going through trying to get to the other side of the woods, and he stops and sees Darnell. And he's like, I remember you. You were on the jury. Kills him. So a couple of people end up dead. So later on, when they don't go to the campground for the party, May said, I'll go back to the reenactment site to see if they're up there still hanging out and drinking some beer. So she goes up there, and there's 4 people dead, including the prisoner. So, the laundry club ladies all have like a part in each of these books, because then, Queenie's like, oh, wait, that guy came up. I thought he was a replacement, So, and then they do go off site to another place when they are looking for gold, because the John Swift silver is another legend, real legend in the Daniel Boone National Forest. With the he was an Englishman from England that sailed over, and it was when they were taking all the land from the Native Americans, and he was bringing his wares over on the ship. And he realized that this was not a good thing to do. So he started counterfeiting the English coin. And so he was hiding out in the Daniel Boone National Forest. So he would give it to the Native Americans, so that he would say, listen, when they want your land, just give them this, this English money. So they would say, oh, we're going to take your land. And say, they were, no, we've got your money. And so they end up finding him hidden in some caves. And so he has tons of journals. He was taken back to England, tried, was in prison, became blind. But then when he got out, he came back over here because he made a lady friend in Kentucky. So she had all of his journals. And this is a real true story. So she had all his journals, where it had all of his treasure that he buried here in Kentucky in the Daniel Boone National Forest. So I did a lot of I did do research on that, but I have always grown up knowing. Yeah, I Googled it. So I had grown up hearing about all of these things. And so like he would say, a rock would overhang, which was really a cliff. Like, all his verbiage was so funny. Because as we know now, are caves and cliffs and different things like that. But the History Channel actually last fall did a huge 2-week-long spread on John Swift and the treasure here in the Daniel Boone National Forest. So that was a lot of fun to write about too. And like, they all brought some different knowledge. Like Abby had brought some things to that about research and maps, and also Agnes, Hank's grandmother. Her husband, Hank's grandfather, was actually a treasure hunter himself. So she went with them and played a part in it. So they all bring something of knowledge of history to the area, so of each book. So that's what I wanted, that community. And I wanted them to embrace May, and for them to have some sort of influence in the community. Say, you know what, she's one of us. So that's why, a long story longer, that's why they're in there.
We're getting some comments. Very interesting backstory for the way you write the series. People said that hearing all this is like reading one of the books. people saying love the laundry club ladies. Somebody said that didn't they recently find it? I think referring to the treasure. Wasn't that was something in New Mexico, I believe, wasn't it? There was a guy who had hidden
Oh, I
something
don't know.
and
Says John
wrote a
Swift's
poem with.
treasure.
I don't know if that's the thing what this person's thinking of. Yeah, maybe I'm confused thinking of something else, but
Yeah, this
yeah,
John
and another
Swift is
person says at different
specifically.
ages adds various life experiences to be well-rounded.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and not to
John
get off
Swift's
topic,
treasure.
but I do write another series that's a sleuth, that's 50, and readers love her because we can all relate to her issues. So that's just a subplot: her hot flashes, going while she's sleuthing, all her aches and body things. So, but people love
Yeah.
reading about the older sleuths, and so, and I love writing them, because I'm not.
Well,
I'm
I'm
not
glad to hear
sleuthing.
that. I'm glad to hear that because I just sold a series to St. Martin's and my main character is
Oh,
going to be
good.
50. And when I pitched it to my editor, she liked it. And I said, people don't realize, when they're younger anyway, what a wonderful time of life
Right.
this is. I mean, like I heard you say you're an empty
And
nester.
you're
We're empty
smarter.
nesters. It's just, yeah, you're smarter. You know how to prioritize. You know what's really worth spending your time on and what's
Yeah.
not. There's some financial security sometimes that comes with being this
Yes.
age. Your kids are launched, so they're off the
Yeah.
payroll, so that frees some money up, and just some time to kind of focus on yourself again and some of the things that you enjoy, and maybe volunteer work or whatever. I mean, I really am, and I know Melissa is too. We're just finding we just really like this time of life.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
And have some time. And seeing the kids too, that they've gotten launched and they're pursuing their dreams and kind of feeling sort of like, whew,
We did it.
the hard part is done. Yeah, now it's on them. That's really nice.
And early morning and 2 days and all those things.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think Melissa, what are we calling you here? I think
she's
that
Misa on the inside.
She still has a baby in the nest, though.
Yeah, he's turning 18 this year. It's crazy.
Can't believe it.
He's a senior, and so he'll be 18 in November, and he's our last. Yeah,
and pretty self-sufficient.
He doesn't have to go to community college and stay here. I'm not ready to let him go.
Yeah. Oh, the cute baby.
You'll feel that way for about 2 weeks, then you'll be like,
yeah. I'm looking forward to weekend trips and stuff like that.
Yeah. We love it.
So what series is the one with your 50-year-old heroine?
It's the Mail Carrier Cozy Mystery Series. She's a mail carrier. And so it's also a small town. And she has an adult son that is the coach of a local high school football team, which, we're cuckoo about here too. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Like Texas. When we look back at Texas.
And she has the front porch ladies. They're all lined up waiting for her, And so they're known as the front porch ladies in that group, in that series.
We're getting some comments. I just turned 61. I love it, though it's a pain at times. And someone else said, just signed my 15-year-old up for driver's training. I'm not ready. Yeah, you're never ready for your kid to learn how to drive. It says, and a 9-year-old. No one is leaving anytime soon. LOL. Yeah, 50 is the new 40. All right, like that. So here's my last question for you, Tonya. So I have to admit, The Killer was a surprise to me. And I won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't read the book yet, but I was kind of surprised. I thought it was going to go a different direction. So I'm curious about your process. Did you know that this person was going to be the killer when you set out to write the book, or did you just kind of? Because I've heard other people say that they just kind of write all their suspects, and at the end they decide who they want it to be, and then they kind of go back and maybe tweak a few things. But I really just didn't see this one coming.
No, I did. The entire time I knew that it was going to be this person. And I think that, I think Melissa and I have we've talked about this years ago. Like you write a mystery backwards, so I knew from the beginning who the killer was, who the victim was, and the motive. And then I filled in the other suspects. But most interestingly enough, Ava Cox, who is the lawyer in the book, as a matter of fact, becomes a staple in the whole series. So that's been a fun person to write because she's in this book. But she's been a good staple. But there's a lot of history that is uncovered as well with that whole storyline. But yeah, so my process sometimes changes because I do like sometimes I'll start to think, and I don't believe in writer's block. I never have believed in writer's block. I feel like if you are stuck, that you have written yourself into a hole, or that you didn't do it, you've gone wrong. And as more as you try to put that square peg in that round hole, it doesn't happen. So sometimes I always will get up and go for a walk, usually, or I'll go for a drive, but I never and then usually I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the killer. I've been writing this the wrong way. But and I've done that several times within this series, and I have gone back and planted more clues. Now I always have all of my I always have, let's see if I have it. So here is kickbacks and kayaks. So I always have I'll see if I can find it here because I always keep my stuff with me, but I don't know if I can show you any of it.
You still have a new journal for every book, Tonya?
I do. But this one is a different one. So this one you can't really tell, but I've got like the suspects listed, and under each of them I write what their motive is. So I think that so when I'm writing, I do check off the clues because I know what clues I have to have under each one of those. So sometimes I go back and I'm like, oh, they really have more of a motive. So that can't be the killer. So this one has to, because they need to slide under the radar. So that is hopefully what I do. So I have gone back and done that. But in this particular book, it was the first in the series and I needed it to be plotted out. But Misa, I have graduated to the bigger notebooks because I just have to have more room to write. So each one has each section is one book.
Oh, okay.
So in this book now I'm writing gears, the grills one, which is another one, and then it has like my plot for paddles, and kayaks is in here. So that's the one just published. So anyway, so yeah,
your camper would be so full of journals, like it would take a whole room in a house.
Well, when we were moving, Eddie's like, all these notebooks are filled up, do we need them? I'm like, yes, put them in storage. Well, you never know. Like I do keep a series Bible. One of my things that I do always have with me that didn't go to storage is I buy these little telephone books from the Dollar General store. And so they're $1, and it's like its own phone book for each series. So every character that I write about is in here. All of their like town stuff. Mae West is under M for May. So it talks about her, but everybody is it's like a little phone book.
That's a great idea.
So yeah, so it's kind of like a series.
So organized.
I'm very organized. It's bad. Oh, you don't even want to know. I mean, you don't even want to get my planner out.
No, I know, because you're a big planner. I write on Scrivener, and so everything is digital notes. I have the note sections and everything there. And I want to be a journaler and a planner like that, but I try and then I forget about it.
So I try to use Asana and Scrivener. I bought all that, and I just can't do anything digital. I'm not even a calendar. Like I tried to do my iCalendar. I mean, I linked them all with Google, but I can't do it.
So you write them all out longhand?
No. So I will write out like chapters, and I do a synopsis for each chapter, so I know where the clue needs to go and where the turning point is. It's not always. I know I write. So for HarperCollins, they required me to write 50,000 words. That's it for my cozy mysteries. So if 50,000 words is good enough for them, it's good enough for everything else. Except for Crooked Lane wanted 80, and I got to 60. I'm like, this is all you're getting.
Wait,
so
that was your ghostly books?
HarperCollins is the ghostly books, yeah. So I own all the rights to those. So at the third contract, I did turn that down because I'm gonna continue to self-publish those and make my own money. So, anyways, but I love being with them, and I mean the door's still open. I mean they're great, and I had the best editor in the world. But anyways, so I that's how my process is. So I write 20 chapters every day. I write 4,000 to 5,000 words every day. And so I can generally get a first draft done within 2 weeks.
Okay,
So
tell me about that. You write 4,000 to 5,000 words a day. How long does that take you? What time do you start? What time do you finish?
so I start like 8:30 and I can be done by like 11 or 11:30 in the morning. And they might not be perfect words, obviously for a first draft, but they are pretty. I've gotten to the point now to where I can be almost a pretty good, perfect first draft. But I write 5 days a week, at
Like
least.
3,000 words a day is a good day.
What?
Yeah.
What, Diane?
She said 4,000.
3,000 is a good day for me.
So I do writing
Usually it's more.
sprints. And
Yeah.
so I do them actually I just get on YouTube and I Google writing sprints. There's a girl that I follow who doesn't know me from Adam. And so I'm always on her writing sprint every Tuesday, Thursday at 8:30. I'm like, I'm here. And so it just keeps me accountable and it makes me, so I treat it like a job. Like I get up every morning, even in the apartment, I get a shower, and then I drive here. And when I was at home, when we had a home, like a house, I would get up every morning and do my routine and be at the desk at 8:30. So, and I treat it like a true job. So then I take a break. I always eat lunch at 1 o'clock for Days of Our Lives. And then at 2, I do, at 2 to like 4, I do all the business stuff. I try to check emails. I'm not really good at that. I know you've sent me a few. Um, but I do like business things between 2 and 4 and schedule any kind of appointments or interviews that I have to do for that. And then Eddie comes home and I put it away. And then at like 7 o'clock at night, I get on social media. And that's when I get on social media while he's watching MASH. And then I'm generally off by 8:30 and go to bed by 10 and get up by 5.
Just having a good routine. So someone has asked if you've ever made a reading journal.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Now I do.
I think for books that you've read, like, do you keep track of books that you've read?
Okay,
I'm
so
guessing that's what that means.
I don't know, or maybe they're referring to my newsletter sign up. I created a reader's journal. So for readers, so if they sign up for my newsletter, they get a PDF of this that they can print off. And so I already had that, so they can like log the books that they've read. They can give it the many stars. They can write their reviews. It has various different writer or reader sayings in it. It was something that I put together lovingly for me to use for myself. But if they're referring to what I read generally nonfiction books. I rarely read a lot of cozies. I don't do critique partners. I feel like we're in the stage of the game where we don't really need that. We might need plot partners. I do have a group of women that are plot partners. We go to Aspen once a year and do plotting for our books for 2 weeks. So everybody gets at least 3. They get like at least 3 books each that we plot.
Your emails, Tonya, when we were in Colorado, we were like so close.
And I didn't know that. I was like, oh my gosh. So yeah.
Emails, Tonya.
I know, but now we're better. We're on the East Coast.
I know. Yeah.
And I mean, I like going there. I mean, it's a free place. It's my girlfriend's house, and it's beautiful. But we're there for work. I mean, we get up and we plot. Everybody gets 3 days of plotting, and so none of them write cozy mysteries. So a lot of times they're like, "Oh my God, what about the Baptist preacher did it?" Keep reading the series. They love to kill people, and I'm like trying to come up with romance stuff, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is so much fun! Let's kill the Baptist preacher." So I don't really read a whole lot of cozy mysteries. Like I will if people need like a quote or if I'm doing a book club. And so those kind of things to answer questions. But as far as me keeping a reader journal, I do a whole lot of nonfiction things like Tiny Habits. I'm reading that now. I do The Artist's Way. I love that. I do morning journaling called Morning Pages before I write. So, but as far as me keeping a reader journal, I don't. But I do give one if anybody signed up for the newsletter. So
Yeah, somebody said you have a reading journal printable on your website. They pointed out.
There you
And
go.
somebody else agrees with you, and I do too. About I don't like digital. I've tried to use digital planners because I keep thinking, oh, it's easier. But I just really like to visualize something, and I like to see a whole month at a time. And yeah,
like I'm a happy planner, and I do stickers. My husband's like, he sees me get out the stickers, and he's like, it's craft time. So like I sticker it up, and I have checklists, and it just makes me feel better. It makes me feel, and I go, it's the teacher in me that I used to be. I think about the stickers.
Oh, okay.
You get a gold star for this. But
give yourself a gold star.
but honestly, it just keeps me accountable. I feel like here's next week, which is blank. I had to put out the fall stuff because I thought fall was coming. So as you see, like the little typewriters is already says it's a start and end time, and it's 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes. So I'll do 3 sprints of 30 minutes, and I can generally get 4,000 words done, and then I can keep going to get the 5,000 if I feel like it.
Wow.
So when you call it a sprint, exactly what is a sprint?
So writing
How does that differ from?
It's like the Pomodoro method. So what she did, the girl that I love, and so she's like, this Tonya girl's a whack job. So so she gets on there and she does like she sets a time, like she'll talk for 5 minutes and then she'll set the timer for like 30. So for 30 minutes the screen is just her typing away or her looking around or her thinking or whatever. And so I write, and it's just straight 30 minutes of writing. And what happens is that every day when I write, I end at a point to where I know the next scene needs to go. So I've already loosely plotted that out by doing those chapters. So like here's one, like chapter 7. So I loosely have what's going to happen in chapter 7, what's going to happen in chapter 8, what's going to happen in chapter 9. So while I'm doing that 30-minute writing sprint, I can say, oh, that's right. So, I go back and I can read this and I can continue writing. So when I'm done with the 4,000 to 5,000 words a day, and so she does that. So then she stops for 30 minutes. So then she'll talk for 5 minutes. So when she's talking for 5 minutes, I'll get up and I'll walk around and move my legs so I'm not sitting the whole time. And then she gets back on and says, okay, 3, 2, 1, we're going to start. We start again. I know where I left off. And then we do that 3 times in her group because that's all she does on YouTube. It's called live writing sprints is what I do. A lot of people do them for like that NaNoWriMo. And sometimes people aren't doing live writing sprints when I get on at 8:30. So I just Google it and then I just see a writer that has done it. And I'll get on her channel and just watch one of her old videos and do it while.
So are there rules for the writing? Like you don't go back and edit or you don't revise,
so you
or
just
go
moving
forward or something?
So what I do until I finish the book, I just write it straight on through. Like I don't write a scene here to throw in here. Like I write straight from beginning to end. And then at the end, I have a full size plot mystery that I can go back and add in what I need to add in or take out what I need to take out. And that generally just takes me about 2 to 3 extra days. And then I'm done. I have a professional editing. Now, these books in the beginning were not edited the way that they need to be edited. So I'm currently, I'm with the professional editing service, but now they're in the process of all being re-edited. So, because I don't know if you guys know that the whole Hallmark thing is happening. So of course I wanted to send them the best possible, but they know it. I mean, they've already got a screenwriter and the actors, so they know that the mistakes are in the first books.
So no, tell us about the Hallmark thing.
Yeah.
So I was at a conference, funny enough, with Charlene Schultz, who's Charlene Harris. And so we were at a conference, and I keep getting this Facebook request from this guy that I think is like, just a spammer. And so then I was also getting messages from this guy, and then email messages, and I keep deleting them because I'm like, this is weird. And so, because he's like, oh, do you have the rights to this series? And I'm like, mm. So, finally, and Charlene, if you know who Charlene is, she wrote the Aurora Teagard series, and of course the Suki Stackhouse series, which was True Blood. So I'm like, is this really something? She's like, oh, yeah, I guess you could explore it, and this, that, and the other. So I ended up emailing this guy back, and actually he is a producer for Netflix. He actually wrote the actual movie, he was the producer for The Expandables with like I don't know, like Sylvester Stallone and all those guys. So he wrote those movies. So he does all movies. So his email was, I love this book. I love this concept. I have an actress that loves to camp in real life. This would be perfect for the Hallmark Channel. Do you have an agent? And so I'm like, hey, it's self-published. I keep trying to break those self-publishing ceilings. And so he's like, I don't care. It's a great concept. We love it. Do you have an agent? And so I said, I do have an agent. So I called her up, and she's like, oh, these usually don't go anywhere after the initial email. I'm like, okay, well, if he's a real person. So then they came back and said, we have an actress, we have a screenwriter, and we're going to be pitching it. So they pitched it to the CEO, who was Bob Abbott at the time. This was a year ago. So I gave them 6 months to shop it. But then Hallmark came back and said, yeah, let's look at the first. At the time, I had 7 books in the series. So let's do that. Would she be open to us purchasing the series and her writing for us? And we'd obviously do the movies. And we were in talks with that. And then the 6 months was up. But since there was in the contract, it was to extend if there was offers on the table, which we did. And then COVID happened. So then it got shut down. Everything got shut down, like all the movie making and all that. But then now, recently, what they're doing is they're starting to reopen, and they're flying their actors to where they're all done in Vancouver. And they're quarantining them for 14 days and then doing the movie. So they're quarantining the whole crew right now for 14 days. So mine has not come to all of that. So currently we're still in the negotiating phase of this. So it might not happen. It might happen. But now Bob Abbott is no longer the CEO. A woman, he stepped down, and now a woman took over in July. So of Crown Publishing.
I would think with the popularity of glamping right now, that this would be really, because really RVs are glamping. It's not.
Oh yeah.
Someone's asking there to backtrack about your sprints. They said, how many words per chapter, or does it vary? So I don't know if you mind backtracking to that. I just don't want to leave some of their questions unanswered.
No, absolutely. So generally it takes me, my average, like it's just kind of like and maybe for you gals too, but when I'm writing, like it's by natural writing, or I don't know if it's by habit, but a general chapter for me is like 2,000 to 2,500 words. And for some reason, and I don't stop when it just naturally happens. Like I don't say, oh, it's 2,000 words, I got to stop this chapter. But naturally, I feel like that's my word flow. So generally, I'm about 2,000, 2,500 words a chapter. So I usually get in a couple of chapters a day. So it equals out to about that 4,000 to 5,000 words. So
I've never actually counted.
Somebody else has said, yay, my neck of the woods, British Columbia, getting back to your Hallmark thing.
Yeah.
My son actually was in Vancouver. He was working on special effects for movies because, that's where everything's happening right now. And it was funny. We were watching something the other day. I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was a movie where they were supposed to be in like San Francisco is Chinatown, and he's like, no, that's Chinatown in Vancouver because that's the bus I used to take. That's the 22 that goes over there. You know, it's like,
Yeah, and they're going to try to make Kentucky out of that. Good luck.
in the background.
Yeah, but the actress the actress that is on board is Autumn Reeser. She does a lot of the romance movies, but she camps. She
Oh,
does camp
cool.
in real life. So yeah, so she loves the
That's
concept.
so exciting.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Congratulations.
But thanks. But even if
Yeah.
it doesn't happen, I say, I'm a hybrid author. I do love. I'm with 3 publishers. I do have, like I said, have an agent, and I believe in not putting all your eggs in one basket. But anything I can do for self-publishing, which I'm a huge advocate for, then I think that's a huge door opener. Because a lot of people say, "Oh, you have to have an agent to have a movie." No, you don't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole new world. So my new series coming out next month is self-published, and it's my first one. So I'm excited.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. There's a lot to learn. Diane has some self-published books too. The Busted series about female motorcycle cops. They're so good. They're
Awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting because you have to learn so much and know so much about so many different aspects. Yet you get more control over it, which is kind of fun because, like, I found sometimes with my traditional publisher, like I don't even know when they're going to be doing a special, and all of a sudden something will just pop up, or I'll notice, oh, my Amazon ranking's really good today. Why is this? Oh, something's on sale for $2.99. So it's kind of nice when you can have more control over it. But then it's also more time consuming.
It is.
So I
So
really
that's
like kind of
why.
doing both. It's fun.
And so I'm most creative in the morning. So that's why I write in the morning. And so that's why I do the afternoon stuff at night. And so I also do my own audio. I also gave my agent some audio work that was requested that we've done together because I keep trying to feed her stuff to keep her happy. And then I've also done my own audio contracts with audio books. And so I'm in all 3 pots with that. Like I'm my own publisher of audio. I've contracted with the audio thing, and then I let my agent do some audio books. And so that's really like one of the one that I brokered myself. Like they always say, "Oh, you're one of my." As a matter of fact, Beaches and Bungalows and Burglaries just got picked up for the Chirp deal for all of September. So she emailed to let me know that. But you're right. When I do, and I mean, I'm with Lucia, Lucy, whatever you want to call her, Macro with HarperCollins, and she's always great about saying, "Oh my God, our girl is on sale," which is our funeral home girl. So she's good about doing it. But a couple of the other publishers, I mean, Henry Press and Crooked Lane, they never tell me ever.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. So I rely on my readers to say, "Oh, I got an email that said this book's on sale." I'm like, "Oh, if I'd have known that, I could have made them a lot more money for us."
And you have an amazing reader fan base. I mean, so many people.
I love them all. They are great. Like I think you said Jane Dietz was here. I've met Jane because I do a reader event every year. Sadly, it was canceled this year, and so I get to meet them there. The train event, yeah. And so it was actually set in Kentucky this year, which hopefully it'll be next year. We were doing the Bourbon Trail and doing the train. So
Bourbon Trail would have been fun.
yeah, so hopefully we'll get to do that next year.
I need
But
to meet up with you because my maiden name is Bourbon, and that's what I'm publishing under.
you're going to do it under Melissa Bourbon or Misa?
Yeah. Melissa.
There you go. I know your name.
Yeah, so my Bread Shop series is Winnie Archer. That's with one publisher, but everything else is Melissa Bourbon now.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Bourbon.
So yeah, so that's what we've done, and so we've been all over the United States. I have one reader, y'all might know Becky Wilhoit. She's been to every single event. I've had it in Niagara Falls. We've done St. Louis, Virginia. And so it's like a thing that was just a 1-day event that's turned into 2 nights and now 3 nights. So it's a big deal. So that's a lot of fun to do. So, but that is something that I enjoy doing, but it's also the business part. Also, another thing that I get a lot is, why did that series end that you self-published? And, you have to sometimes take off the writer hat, though you love those characters, and put on the business hat and say, you know what, at the end of the day, this is my purpose, but it's also my job. I do have to pay the bills. I do have to, and that series just wasn't cutting the bill. So unfortunately, you have to make those hard decisions. And I like my witch series. I had a witch series I absolutely loved. That made the USA Today twice. But I just didn't have the heart for it anymore. So I wrote the last book in that series this year. And so readers didn't like that either. They're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I'm like, it's just time to stop, but then they'll say, oh, but what happened to the, Divorce Diva series? We loved those 3 books, but it just wasn't, profitable for me to keep writing those. And still at the end of the day, you're paying $500 for a cover as a self-published author. You're paying $500 to $1,000 for an editor. You still got those costs. And to be transparent, my readers know. I mean,
It's a big
I'm so
investment.
transparent. Like I spend upwards of $500 to $600 every 4 days in advertising with Amazon. My readers know that I'm transparent with them. I let them know, guys, we want to keep this series going. Let's promote it or whatever. But, but at the end of the day, really, truly, it's just that one reader that I want to escape. And if that's, what I can continue to do, then I'll keep writing, so.
Yeah. Well, keep writing because we all love you. And you've got
Oh, I love you. Thank you.
I love you. Miss seeing you at reader events. We love Tonya.
I know. I miss you too.
Yeah. Well, you guys.
What we've got? Can we ask this final question? Are you actively thinking of starting another series, and do you have a far out idea journal?
A far out ideal journal. So, interestingly enough, I had another
Idea
series
journal.
in a what?
Oh, just a journal with your ideas for future
Okay.
series.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, interestingly enough, I had actually bought some covers. They are beautiful. And I put them on my group and said, guys, I've got this new, like, it's kind of like a witch series, but kind of not like a witch series, where you're going to see my other witch series people come into and kind of funnel in and out of. So it was kind of like a spin-off series, but I tell you what, and if I could say to my younger self something that I have learned in the past 2 years, is to write in just 1 or 2 series and ride that wave, instead of trying to, because I was writing in 4 to 5 series, and so that was just a lot. Um, and of course, income wise, when you keep, I'm in KU, and KU readers, people say, oh, KU readers are for people that like free books. I'm like, no, they're not. They're voracious readers. They're reading books all the time. That's why they're in KU, is because they read so much. And so, if I was to tell my younger self something, or a young author or a young writer starting out, it would be to just continue to put out books. If you're going to self-publish in one series, continue one after the other after the other. So I took a long, hard look, and I have a coffee series that's really popular. But I had to take a long, hard look, and my readers that are on here know, because I tell them I do love the coffee series, but right now I'm going to continue with the camper series, and I'm going to continue with the mail carrier series. And as a matter of fact, I had 2 coffee books on pre-order. So I called my representative at Amazon. I said, listen, can we not do this? He's like, oh, well, you're in luck, because during COVID, they're letting everybody take them down. But I mean, he would have taken them down for me anyways. And a lot of people don't know that when you pre-order, they don't debit your account. You just pre-order it, and then when the book comes out, then your money is taken out of your account. So I had a lot of readers say, why was the pre-order taken down? But the pre-orders were replaced with more mail carrier books and more camper books. And so they're still getting a book. It's just not going to be in that series. And I said, well, it's not an end of the series. It's just that I'm not going to publish anymore right now. So the new series I was talking about completely got put on hold, and all those covers that I spent all that money on. But I know that when it's time for that series, because creatively, I can't write another series. My head is not in the game for the Killer Coffee series. It's not in the game for another witch book, and it's not in the game for a new series. So right now I'm really enjoying these 2 series, which I can make my readers happy, because I make my current readers happy. That's who I make happy. And then if other people come in on the fold, that's great. So like during COVID, a lot of people are at home, and I have a lot of older readers, and a lot of their daughters have said, wow, during COVID, my mom and I started sharing books. I had no idea. I love cozy mystery now. And she's like 24 years old. So I've been getting a lot of those crossover readers during this. And so my heart and my creative mind is into those two series. So I had to take off that again. I had to put back on the publisher hat and the writing hat at the same time, and then say to my readers, you're not, Roxy Bloom is still going to be at the coffee shop, but right now there's not going to be any extra books in that series until next year, hopefully. So, and as for so that's the new series was put on hold. So as for a journal book that I have for other ideas, I do keep one with me all the time, handy in my bag and in my purse. So it's always, yeah. And, or if I'm driving, and because I drive, I don't know, a lot of people don't know. I mean, a lot of my readers know this, but I'm always the driver. I always make Eddie ride shotgun. And so he always has my book. I'm like, oh my God, I got an idea. So he picks up the book and he writes it down. And so,
I
yeah. So a
remember
lot of
they
times when I'm driving,
drive
that's what
together
happens.
and read your book aloud, or he would read the book aloud.
He never, he does. He's never read one of my books ever.
You read it aloud to him? Because I remember you telling me a story that you were in the car and you were reading it aloud or something.
Yeah, so I'll read it out loud to him. But now my readers and I, once every couple of months, I do something called bedtime stories with Tonya, and I let them pick whatever book they want to read. So every night I go live at like 7:00 at night for those however long it takes me to read a full book, and I'll read one chapter a night. So he has to listen to that for a couple of weeks every couple of months.
We've got some nice comments over here. Someone says that you helped her escape from grief. I think that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Escaping into a story. They do get us through the hard times. And somebody else says, we're happy as long as I said your focus seems smart and dedicated to these two series. So
it really does.
it's nice to get that approval.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I tell them everything. I don't lie to my readers. And if they want to know it, I tell it. I mean, I respect them enough and am so honored enough to just let them do what Misa can tell you, when she first met me, I hadn't probably written a word. And so, she let me join her blog at the time, and I had just a concept and I was selling it to them till the cows came home. And I believed in it. I mean, I believe in my concepts and I believe that I could tell a good story. And so that was my journey to reading, was through depression in my 30s. So I didn't even become a reader until I was in my 30s, and a book saved my life. And it wasn't until my book club that I had joined, because they were having coffee and wine and chocolate, that I was telling them a story, and they said, oh my God, you should put that in a book. And I literally woke Eddie up at like midnight after book club, after they left, and said, do you think I could write a book and have one reader escape? And he was like, yeah. So from then on out, the next day I bought a notebook and started writing my first book underneath an oak tree at football practice, a Pee Wee football practice.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I remember that story.
Yeah. We were.
And here you are now.
Now I'm writing in a camper.
Later, right?
I'm writing in a camper using what is it? Septic tank toilet paper.
There we go. Well, you guys, it has been an hour and 20 minutes. We want to thank Tonya for being
here. Thank you, Tonya.
I don't know if y'all know, but 8:00 is Big Brother, and I generally host a live Big Brother on my Big Brother page. So I'm sure they're all like, where is she? I do way too much with people.
You better go.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah, our pleasure. It's fun.
Stop the recording. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, Misa.
Bye. Thanks for joining in. See y'all next
Diane.
month. Yeah, thanks. Great to meet you, Tonya.